Welcome to Cord Cutting This Week, episode number 62, the show where I give you my opinion on some of the biggest stories from the world of cord cutting in the past week. Now, these are my opinion. If you want to learn more, in the show notes down below, I'll put a link to each story. Come up with your own opinions. Let me know. I'll love to hear from you. What do you think about these stories? What do you think I got wrong? Or what do you think I should have included that I didn't? Leave me a comment. A few things right off the bat. Hey, a special thank you to Sling TV for sponsoring this episode with their antenna install program. Yes, you don't need to be a Sling TV customer to have them come install an antenna for you. It starts at just $99 for an indoor antenna. It includes the cost of the indoor antenna and the installation. And outdoor antenna starting at $150 comes with the antenna, the install in one room. You can add additional rooms for additional costs if you like that. I, as you know, just moved into a new home, had them do it this week, and I have a full write-up of my experience down below. Super easy. They came, they set up the antenna and wired it into my existing line, ran to my living room, set up an Air TV, you see the box right there, and made it all happen in less than an hour and a half. From in, out, done, beautiful stations. I went from 10 stations with my indoor antenna to over 40 some channels. I think it's 47 at my last count from multiple different markets. So I got great news is I get to pick from multiple ABCs, multiple CBSs, and more. So much more content than I ever thought I would get with an antenna at a really good price without having to climb up on my roof or worry about that. So link in the show notes down below. Thank you to Sling for sponsoring it. Just make sure you call the right number, the one in the show notes or in the post down below. Because if you call their main dish line, they're going to be going, hey, we can sell you a satellite TV if you want. We don't want that. We want the antenna install, so use that phone number down below. Second, hey, I'm in the new office. It's a nice setup. I'm very excited. I still don't have my desk. I'm kind of getting bummed about the fact that it's taking a lot longer than it should have, back orders, that kind of fun stuff. The good news is it's coming. The bad news is I have some I'm trying to custom build some sound enclosures that I can't really set up properly until the desk gets here to make sure it's all properly, whatever. It's a long story. But we put some carpet in, which will help with this. The sound enclosures will do even more. So hang in there as we work on improving the sound quality of these. But I'm very excited. New microphone today on what we're going to be making happen here and for the future of these weekly recaps. So let's dive into it. Number one is Viacom. Now, we've talked about Viacom buying Pluto TV for some time. Last week, we talked about how Viacom's president said, yes, Pluto TV will be free. And he's still standing by that. Viacom is going to keep Pluto TV free, but they are going to allow you to subscribe to additional content. Now, Viacom has all these different add-ons. They have some Amazon channels like Nick Hits and Comedy Central Now. They have partnership with like VRV where you can subscribe to get a bunch of Nickelodeon content and more through VRV. Now they're saying, hey, we're going to bring some of that to Pluto. So you can get all the free stuff, but hey, if you want some more Comedy Central, you want some more Nickelodeon content, for a small fee, you can add that to your free Pluto TV lineup. Now, again, Viacom CEO was very clear. We love that Pluto TV is free. We want to basically, not his words, but my words, take on Amazon channels. They want to offer the ability for you to go and subscribe to multiple stuff and have it in a single place, which is a pretty cool deal. And I think this is an idea that's time kind of has come where more and more people are looking at doing this because it's true. It is a little confusing to be, hey, HBO's here, CBS is here, Netflix is here, Pluto TV's over here. If you can combine those into a single app and manage them all through a single place with one login, one password, one payment system, it makes it a lot easier. My question to you is, do you like these? Do you like the Amazon channel, the Roku channel, the Sling TV method, and others who are launching these all-encompassing, like, hey, subscribe to everything through our one place? I think it's going to take some time to build this up, to develop the system, but I think we are moving in that direction. I would love to know from you what you think of this. Do you like it? Do you know? If not, why? I'd love to hear from you. Leave me a comment. Next up is a question that I know it's going to be a touchy subject, but I get this a lot. Why do apps not come to Apple TV and Android TV? Now, while Apple TV is a lot better than it used to be, there are still some apps that don't come there. And about a week ago now when I'm recording this, Locast came out and said, hey, yes, we are developing Apple TV and our roadmap way down the road. But first we want to develop for the Fire TV and other platforms, and eventually we'll get to Apple TV. Android TV faces the same issue. About a year ago, the former head of Hulu's app was asked, why isn't Hulu Live TV on Android TV? Hulu On Demand is. He said, hey, there's just not enough users on the Android TV version. So This is a popular issue. I know Roku gets it and Fire TV gets it a little bit, but not nearly at the rate that the Apple TV and Android TV do. So let's dive in and see if we can figure out why. This comes from talking to people in the industry, my best information. We're going to give you 5 reasons why. Sometimes it feels like the Apple TV and Android TV are just not getting love. Number 1, market share. The Apple TV is in 5th place, depending on who you talk to, may even be lower. It's behind Roku, it's behind Fire TV, it's behind game systems, smart TVs, and others, depending on what surveys you look at. It is also, the Android TV is farther down. Some people even say, hey, it's even farther down than 6 or 7, maybe. So market share is a big part of this, and Locast is a part of this. Say, hey, you know what? Most of the users that we're hearing from are on the Fire TV. That's the biggest block of people that want to get access to this. So they're going out there and they're partnering or they're developing for the Fire TV first before they go to the Apple TV. The other reason is, hey, they have Chromecast and AirPlay. Locast pointed this out too. They said, hey, you know what? We already have AirPlay support, so we kind of consider the Apple TV support at this moment. And I know a lot of people say, hey, I don't want to use Chromecast for my Android TV or AirPlay for my Apple TV. I want an app with remote support and all that stuff to use. And I get that, but some developers are just saying, hey, it's just kind of easy for us for now to say, hey, use Chromecast, use AirPlay, we'll go from there. The other reason, I think this one surprises a lot of people, is limited staffing. People hear about Philo and YouTube TV and all these places. There are just these massive thousands of people probably building these apps, at least hundreds, right? And often I find these teams are surprisingly small. And the reason behind that is A, developers are very expensive. Good ones are very hard to get your hands on. B, they're developing all these apps. Once the apps are developed, they don't want to turn around and have to lay off a bunch of people and pay severances and deal with a lot of that. So they keep the team small. Not only do they develop the team, but they also must build the team out there for this kind of stuff. So keep an eye out for that being one of the reasons. I think you hear, oh, there's all these people that work at like Philo or Hulu. Well, that's true, but a lot of them are in like legal and technical support and things like customer relations and so forth, but they're not actually building the apps, so keep that in mind. Staggered rollout is another one. And staggered rollout, easiest way to do is Sling. Sling TV rolled out in the Roku first, and then they rolled out Fire TV and Android TV, and down the road they eventually got Apple TV. Why did Sling do that deliberately? Many people deliberately do that, is because that allows them to kind of handle the flood. When I talk to developers, they say that at first, when a new device or a new service hits the market, people buy it and use it more heavily than they will 6 months on the road. So the same person the first couple of weeks will use a new streaming service a lot more than they would 6 months down the road. And the reason, because it's new, it's cool, it's shiny, they want to try it out. By rolling out support slowly over a few months or a year, it allows them to limit the, let's call it the mass impact when a new service hits. If they're on everything at start, it's kind of difficult for them to handle all that. If they say, hey, we're going to hit Roku first, Apple TV second, Fire TV third, etc., then they can kind of slowly roll into it, build up their technical support before it becomes a massive flood of people, we'll call it. And lastly, hey, the Apple TV and the Android TV are kind of new. And I hear it already. Luke, the Apple TV was one of the very first streaming players on the market, older than the Roku. That is true. But their support of an open app platform is fairly new. For example, it wasn't until the Apple TV 4 in late 2015 was announced that they opened up app development for pretty much anyone. Previously, you had to have an inside track. You have to have a relationship with Apple to get your app approved for the Apple TV. It wasn't just this, hey, I'm going to submit an app to an app store. It was, no, you had to literally build a relationship with Apple. And that's why live TV streaming services came to the Apple TV last. Because at the time, there just wasn't that many of them, or that demand. Apple wasn't allowing them on, and there are all kinds of rules and restrictions. Apple's also relaxed the rules and restrictions a lot recently to make it more welcoming for streaming services and subscribers and more. So keep a close eye on that. Those are the 5 reasons why. People maybe not get the Apple TV the love it deserves. I don't know. I'd love to hear from you. What do you think about that? I know Apple TV fans are hardcore Apple TV fans, but I'd love to hear from you. If you're somebody who has iPhones and Macs and everything Apple, but you didn't pick the Apple TV, why? Leave me a comment. Let me know. If you are an Apple TV user, do you love it? Is there ever anything nowadays where you say, hey, I like this, but I'm missing this or missing that? I will say 2 years ago, if you asked me, hey, I want to get Apple TV for cord cutting, I would have been like, it's good, but it's missing a lot of services. Now, the reality is that's kind of changing, but we still, to this day, even though most cord cutting services are now on the Apple TV and Android TV, there's still a growing number that are not. So keep that in mind if you are thinking about it. All right, next up, cord cutting is growing faster than ever, but with people 50 and up. For a long time, cord cutting was seen as this thing that only millennials did, right? It's just a couple kids, mom and dad's basement. They're not important to us. They wouldn't pay for anything anyways. They're living on mom and dad's coattails and so forth. But a new study from the PwC research group says 28% of Americans over 50 do not pay for traditional paid TV service. Okay, that sounds okay, not great, but 20% can build on that. While 61% of them, according to this research, even if they have cable, subscribe to at least one streaming service like Netflix, Hulu, and Amazon and use it. It's not like they pay for 2-day shipping with Amazon, but don't use the streaming. According to this, they're paying for it and using it. This is really bad news because one of the arguments you see from cable companies, I've seen those ads, streaming is so confusing. You can't ever find anything you want. Just use cable. Cable's better. But it seems like, hey, even with the over 50 crowd, people are figuring out, they are developing, and they are moving forward. So this has to be giving cable TV executives a nightmare. Because those baby boomers, the generation, the older generation, was kind of seen as, oh yeah, they'll always be with us. Well, I did a class recently in Dallas. I've talked about these in the past, talking about cord cutting. Heck, the average age of people was in their 60s. It's unbelievable how cord cutting is in all ages, all age groups. And I would say, hey, some of the fastest growing markets are the 30 plus people, the people with kids and a house and a mortgage and student loans and credit cards. Those seem to be some of the people who are most interested in cord cutting right now. So I'd love to know, are you over 50? Why did you cut the cord? Leave me a comment. Let me know. What drove you to cut the cord if you are over 50? Did you find it hard or was it surprisingly easy? Leave me a comment. But keep an eye on this number. The over 50 cord cutters, if we get that number up to 50%, that's just death and doom and gloom for the future of cable TV. Lastly, today, one of the stories we wrote about earlier this week that got a lot of attention was Roku plans to eventually make the Roku channel streaming service that they offer, the home screen for Roku. Anthony Wood, the CEO, founder, and inventor of the DVR, who's now the CEO and founder of Roku, came out in an interview with Ad Age Light last year and said, hey, talked about the Roku channel, and then at the end of it said, hey, at some point it will become our home screen. At some point it will probably become our home screen. Just be clear, it will probably become our home screen. It looks like Roku's trying to use this to develop the ability to test bed some new ideas for home screen. They've talked quite a bit that they intend to rework the way the home screen looks for Roku. And not to mean that they're going to eliminate all the apps. One of the things that some people really like about Roku is how easy it is just to get into Netflix, get into Roku, get in to all the different services on it. But it looks like they want to also add the ability to have some featured content in there. The ability to say, hey, you are watching Orange is the New Black or Stranger Things. Would you like to just jump straight into it? Now, instead of having to go into Netflix, scroll through the menus, find out the one you were watching, click on it, launch the episode, etc. Hey, why don't we just put that right in your home screen? You click the button and launch right into it. What I would love to know from you is two things. A, what do you think of the Roku channel? Free streaming, they're integrating subscription services, live streaming from like news and TV programming and more. But what do you think of the idea of taking some of that, the best parts of it, let's say, and put it on the home screen, redo the home screen with it? Second part is, if you were Anthony Wood, if you were the CEO and president of Roku, what would you change? What would you add to it? What would you, if you could do anything to the home screen? I know we all like everything free, right? No ads, everything free. But realistically, what would you change to the home screen? What would you develop there? I would love to hear from you. I would love to know what you think of the Roku home screen as is. Well, if not. And hey, don't own a Roku? Maybe own an Apple TV, Android TV, Fire TV, and more. Leave me a comment. What would you like to see change there? Is there something from the Fire TV or Apple TV you would like to see in the Roku? Or the other way around? Is there something on the Roku you would like to see on the Apple TV? Hey, leave me a comment. I'll love to hear from you. But we're going to wrap this up. Hey, again, thank you to Sling TV for your sponsor. Get an antenna installed. Don't worry about climbing on the roof. Comments down below. We'll love to hear from you. And I have a link to the details of the antenna or the antenna installation if you want to learn more about that. But hey, thanks everybody. I really appreciate your support. We're developing the new office. Hang in here. I'm really hoping that new desk shows up this week. I need something more than a folding table. But again, thanks for your support. Can't believe it. We hit 50,000 last week. We're just getting started. We're already, I think at this time, over 51,000 and on our way to 100,000. So thanks for your support. We'll see you next week. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that thumbs up for more cord cutting news, tips, tricks, and how-to guides.